So good morning, everyone. So today we'll be talking about depression. And so this topic came up based on, our that first meeting we all had. You had a lot of questions about, what does depression look like? How do we support um, friends, or how do we support people we care about who are experiencing this? So today we're going to talk and explore more what specifically is depression, and what is the difference between depression and sadness? Because it's really important to understand that all of us at every given point, we experience sadness. We experience sadness in response to an event. When you think of depression, that is a more clinical level of depression, and I want to be able to tease apart the two so you could understand that. And then we're going to go over some skills that'll teach you more about how to support your friends. And it's just active listening. And so with that, I'm happy to engage in a longer conversation about that. And if we have time, we'll do this meditation activity that I'm a big fan of. It's called the loving kindness meditation. And this is more of just to manage with all the stress going on in the world this week. I don't know how it's affected you all, but I have found that in many of the spaces that I've been in, it's been especially stressful. So I'm hoping we have enough time to do that at the end today. And then lastly, I'll be going over resources. So I do include most of the same resources in every presentation, hopefully, because sometimes you might have new folks, but it's there with some additional resources this time. So before I go and talk about what the difference is between depression and sadness, I'd love to hear from you all what you think the difference might be or what it looks like. And seeing as how many people, we have 19 people, I think we could have this conversation here unless people prefer to do it in a breakout room. So since I didn't hear from anyone, I'm assuming that we're going to just have the conversation here. So feel free to go ahead and put in the chat or to share. What do you think is the difference between like depression and sadness? How would you know that someone in your life, or what would you think that how would you know to tell the difference if they're feeling just sad or if they're feeling chronically depressed?
I think the difference between depression and sadness is like depression is more like you have no motivation, like you won't eat, you don't want to get out of bed, and sadness you're just feeling sad, like hurt, but you're not, but you still like have motivation to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I love that you highlighted the lack of motivation. That is, low motivation is a really significant symptom that people experience, especially I think when you think of students, right? Suddenly you just don't have any motivation to do any of your work. You lose interest in activities you used to enjoy. Marjorie, I love your answer. Sadness over a short period of time and depression over a long period of time. Yes, because there is a time difference within them. You could feel sad for an hour, a day, but depression, clinical depression at least, it has to be consistent and persistent for minimum of 2 weeks. There was someone else who was going to share. With the way that my screen is, I wasn't able to see who else was trying to talk.
Oh, I was gonna give an example.
Oh yeah, please, Jennifer. I'd love to hear it.
Like how they were saying like how sadness is like brief and like depression is longer. Like being sad is just like being upset that you didn't get to eat your favorite food during like a day or something. It's just briefly, but like being depressed is just like they're saying having no motivation to shower, to clean, no hygiene whatsoever for a long amount of time.
Yeah, and I love that you also highlight hygiene, because when we think of any clinically significant, whether it's depression or any other diagnosis, your quality of life and your ability to meet your basic needs, when that stops being met, that is a big indicator that something's significantly wrong. When you can barely get out of bed to shower, you haven't showered in a very long time, so hygiene and your sleep. Anyone else have any other thoughts or any examples in response to this question?
Yes, I'll go. I'm Dejaya. I'm a junior at Lancaster High School. And my difference would be that sadness is just basically a typical human emotion that we all experience. And then depression is kind of sort of like, well, it's a mental illness, and we all know that. So that's kind of like the difference there. And also, sadness is kind of sort of just a response to a certain event or certain situation. And then
Mhm.
depression for me is kind of like like something like a life experience that happened, and now you're like really really depressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, in my opinion, I feel like depression is reoccurring. It could be because of something, or just simply because it just keeps reoccurring, like for different periods, or extended periods of time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, thank you. Really great. Like you all have excellent like foundational knowledge of this. And so that makes me very happy to hear because oftentimes when I give this talk, there's a lot of confusion around it. And so kudos to you all for being so well informed. But I want to read Bianca's answer. So sadness is feeling unhappy for a certain moment, but the feeling can eventually go away. Depression is a feeling of emptiness. All the things you do daily don't matter anymore. And so what I want to say is that what can trigger depression for someone is very different than what can trigger it for someone else. It essentially, you have to think about your access to your resources for coping. Um, when you're feeling sad, it could turn into a depressive episode if you don't have the right resources to be able to manage that sadness, right? Where you feel more unmotivated and more discouraged by the time that goes by. So with that, I think I have a graphic. Um, so I think you all highlighted many of these, right? So sadness is usually temporary, whereas depression can be more recurring, like you were mentioning. So it requires assistance, medication, and support. It can be very chronic in nature, so it can keep happening. And so I have found that the way how depression presents itself is very different depending on what a person is experiencing and how comfortable they feel with their emotions. Sometimes it can start off as anger. Sadness and anger are very interconnected. Medication is not necessarily always needed. Medication is definitely something that I recommend when it's very severe. So for example, when I'm working with someone and they show up and they can barely look at me, you can tell that it was really hard for them to get dressed that day. Maybe they haven't showered and but I persistently think of like very monotone, very down, very flat. When you think of someone, think of a close friend who, is full of life and is very energetic, and suddenly for a good period of time, they just do not seem like themselves because they're not themselves. They're not themselves in those moments. So sadness is often connected to a life change. So you all brought this up as well, like something happened that made them sad. But depression can happen for no reason whatsoever. You suddenly wake up and you're just not feeling like yourself. Again, and I'll go into more specific symptoms, but again, it's like this really dramatic shift in your mood. And I would say, like within the people who I've worked with who have been very severely clinically depressed, they have awareness and they really compare it to like, I would much rather have any physical illness over this because that is how terrible depression feels and how awful it feels to not be able to function in the way that you usually do. The next one I want to highlight is, sadness. There's no feelings of wanting to end your life. There's no feelings of suicide with sadness. But depression can sometimes come with those thoughts because you want to escape. So now with this, I want to highlight, there's different layers of suicidal thoughts that people can experience. And so there's some that are very normal that I want to normalize this for you. So they're called morbid, non-suicidal thoughts. That's the clinical term, but eventually just think of them as morbid thoughts. And everyone has morbid thoughts. Let's say you're having a really bad day and you have this sudden thought like, what if I just stopped existing right now? It's just thoughts of wanting to escape, but they're not thoughts of wanting to die. That is a very normal experience that most people have when they're experiencing a lot of stress. That's your body's natural response telling you, something is wrong, right? Now, when the thoughts become more active, when they become more serious, when you find that you're chronically thinking about them, and you start thinking about how could I do this? What would I do? That is when it's so important to seek professional help. That's when it's so important to seek support from someone saying like, I'm not doing it well. I need extra help. Sadness can affect the person's ability to take care of themselves. So we mentioned this, right? So energy, sleep, appetite, and general well-being is dramatically altered. So many times your friend hasn't showered in a while. You're like, what is going on? they're not eating or suddenly eating too much, and it's a big shift. Are there any questions about the differences between sadness and depression? Uh-huh.
Excuse me, my
Mhm.
phone's about to die.
Okay, thank you for letting me know.
Okay.
Are there any questions or anything in response to this slide? I want to be mindful of it because I know it's a lot of information. All right. So now I want to just talk about more specifics with the symptoms that we were discussing. So a person who's experiencing depression will have a down, depressed, low mood. They might feel numb or very irritable. So that's not something we always think about. Like, why is this person just so annoyed? Changes in sleep we've talked about. It could be increased or decreased. So sleeping so much. I think I worked with someone once who was sleeping like 18 hours a day. They could just they could barely wake up to eat and would go back to bed. That was really hard. That was a person who needed to be taking medication. Changes in appetite. Normally with this, I noticed it's more common to have a decreased appetite where people just stop eating altogether because you stop caring about yourself. Social withdrawal, which is socially isolating. So suddenly you realize like, hey, I haven't heard from this friend in a while. Like, I wonder how they're doing. They stop posting. They're not around. What's going on? Lack of enjoyment of pleasurable activities. This is the big one. Suddenly the things you enjoy, it just feels like you're going through the motion. You don't really want to do it. So really thinking about, what is your favorite thing to do? And suddenly you just don't want to do it anymore. Feeling pretty hopeless, feeling like I'm going to be stuck in this and this isn't going to change and there's nothing I can do about it. And that's what leads to thoughts of suicides for folks. Okay. So I want to shift gears a little bit. So I just gave you a brief introduction to what depression looks like and what the difference is between depression and sadness. But regardless of whether or not you're experiencing depression and sadness, I want to talk about some skills that would be helpful for you as you're trying to support your friends, because that is what I heard from you all were needing a lot before. So I want to talk about these active listening skills. So active listening essentially, I'll just read this definition here. So involves listening with all your senses, as well as giving full attention to the speaker. So it's important that the active listener is seen to be listening. Otherwise, the speaker may conclude that what they are talking about is uninteresting to the listener. So basically, it's like you're actually giving your full attention to people. How many times are you hanging out with your friends and you just go on your phone? So you're talking and they're listening. You're like, yeah, I'm listening, as you're responding to a text for someone else or you're doing something. Does anyone do that where you're hanging out with your friends, but you're like not really talking to each other, you're doing something else? And feel free to like thumbs up or anything if that's you. Or are you all already really good active listeners? Okay, thank you. Thank you for your honesty, because I'm like, I do that sometimes, right? I'm talking to someone, I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm like doing this, but I know I can't multitask. So we're gonna go over these skills so that you have an idea of like how to best support your friends. And I wanna, we can practice this as well. All right, so the goals of active listening. So this will help build rapport. That essentially will help you develop a stronger relationship with that person. The goal is to validate them, validate their concerns, their emotions or reactions, help them feel heard and saying like, okay, I'm here for you and I'm hearing what's going on for you. And you can help provide hope and empowerment. Remember when I talk about with depression, one of the biggest symptoms is hopelessness, where you just feel like there's nothing more you can do. As a friend, if you're engaging in active listening, they're like, but look at this person, they care about me, they're willing to like listen and help. And then offering options and resources as active listening is like, hey, Brian, I've been really worried about you, and I'm thinking it might be helpful if you talk to a professional about this. Maybe we can find those resources together. So that would be a really good way of engaging in active listening. So these are the goals. This is what it does. So what is active listening? What does it look like? So there's a bunch of different skills. And so I'd love to have an example for some of these for you. So one is asking open-ended questions. Are you all familiar with what the difference is between an open-ended and a closed question?
I would like to think so.
Yeah. Do you feel comfortable trying to give an example?
I think an open-ended question requires like an explanation as opposed to maybe a closed response, which could be a yes or no answer.
Exactly. So a closed response would be yes or no, essentially. Anything that doesn't require like an answer to it. So you want to say like, what's been going on for you, rather than are you okay, right? Because when you ask someone, are you okay, they might be like, yeah, but what's going on for you? An early introductory therapy thing, which I know everyone hears, is like, tell me more about that. Like, you don't actually have to say that, but essentially you're paraphrasing that. Like, tell me more. Can you share more? Um, does anyone have any other good examples of what an open-ended question sounds like? Or what an example of an open-ended question? How would you approach asking a friend, like if asking them something if you're worried about them?
Perhaps you can ask, like if you're in like a football team or soccer team and say, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been coming to practice. Is there something going on that you want to talk about? And then they can probably give you some sort of response. And
Mm-hmm.
I was
Yeah. So,
thinking like,
go on.
how have you been feeling? It's a pretty open-ended question.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. How have you been feeling? Yes, don't ask a simple yes or no question. Yeah. So really thinking about essentially, and it's okay if you, let's say you ask a closed-ended question. You're like, are you okay? And they say, yeah, no. Then you can request clarification. That's what can help with it, right? So there's no perfect equation to like how to engage in active listening, as long as you're always following up. And so let's say, they say, I'm fine. What's a way to ask clarification if they say I'm fine? So you ask me, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, it's all good. What might you ask me to check in further with me? Like, I'm all good, everything's good.
Maybe like what you've been doing recently.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So yeah, like what have you been doing? That's a really good one. Like what have you been doing that's been helping you feel that way? Like what's been going on? Being attentive. And so that when I say, like being mindful of not being on your phone, being mindful of not doing anything, when someone is sharing something with you and you're very invested in actually listening to them and being with them, you want to pay attention. You want to pay like eye contact if possible. I know that oftentimes right now we're doing things on Zoom. We're being very intentional. So I find if I'm doing a Zoom one-on-one with someone, what I do, because the way that I set up my screen is so that they're the bigger screen, right? So speaker view, so that I can really focus on them. Because I find that if like I can see myself in a bigger screen, it's distracting. Because I'm not used to seeing myself as I'm talking. Summarizing is also a really good skill to have. So this shows them that you're listening. So when you're listening to someone and actively listening to them, if they tell you about their day, you can say something like, "Oh, so you did this," and it sounds really silly to literally repeat back to them what they just told you, but that is essentially what you're doing to active listening. So if I say something like, "Oh, I saw my family this weekend and we went to the beach. And like it was really hot and I was a little bit uncomfortable, but I got out of the house." Um, how would you summarize that?
Can you repeat what you just said?
Okay, if I say, "Oh, this weekend I went to the beach, with my family. It was okay. I wasn't feeling super great about it, but like it was nice to get out of the house." Oh, I see there's a chat. Okay, so I know that it feels really like since I'm not hearing answers, I'm gonna say like it's much more simpler. You can just say like, "Oh, you went to the beach." Like it could be something simple like, "Oh, what you went to the beach and you weren't feeling good," right? Because you're essentially just summarizing or paraphrasing what someone said, and that is showing them that you're listening. It will feel very strange at first, but trust me, when that person who is talking will feel very heard, and they will feel like, okay, this person is actually paying attention to what I'm saying. Like they're saying it back to me, I can hear them. Reflecting feelings. So in that statement, you can say like, oh, you were feeling uncomfortable this weekend. Like, what was up with that? What's going on? Um, and and just being attuned to the feelings and then asking probing questions. So all of these essentially is asking you to really pay attention to someone, really listen to them, really be invested in wanting to know how they are. And it's not about, taking this like easy, like, oh, you're good, we're good, and then continuing on for anything else. So with that, are there any questions about active listening, or do you all have any examples or any scenarios that you'd like to talk through to get advice on how to talk to someone and offer support?
It's not more of like a question. I think something that I find very helpful for me is like body language. I think over the years, I've kind of learned to, as I could, the simplest way to put it is like fix my face. Because sometimes when I'm like, I know, and I did it a lot in college, like whenever I would be like in a chapter meeting with my sorority sisters, like people would think I was upset or like that I was like mad because of my body language. Because like, they say like when you're like this or you want to seem as like welcoming as possible when somebody's approaching you with like a sensitive issue. So I think body language is something we sometimes tend to forget about because we're so used to like our own mannerisms, I can say.
Nayeli, I love that you brought that up. Oh, go on, someone else.
Oh, no, I was going to say.
Okay. Yes, body language. I know with the age of Zoom, it's much harder to read body language because you can only see what people that you see on the screen. But yeah, really paying attention to your own language as you're talking to someone, your own body language. Like, do you find yourself like looking really judgmental towards them? Like, okay, and it's like and being really soft and just more open. Open body language literally just means more open, right? You're sitting, you're facing them. You're just like maybe leaning in a little bit as you're listening because you're showing like, oh, okay, I'm engaged in this conversation with you. And you like, and this isn't a training for you to all be like therapists, and so like you shouldn't have to pay attention to necessarily all body languages, but if you're noticing, like your friends really closed off, they put their head down a lot, they're really not looking at you, or you can tell that they're trying to like really they're just incredibly distracted, like that is also something to be attuned to, like, hey, what's going on? What's going on is one of my favorite open-ended questions, if you can't tell. What's going on? How's it going? What's up? And so,
I have a
okay.
question.
Yes, please.
For example, let's say you have a friend and we use the question, what's going on, like in various situations. But most of the time, let's say the friend doesn't want to talk about it. How would you approach that? Because I feel like we have to like to respect, right, when they don't feel like talking about their situation. But what if like they never feel like talking? Is there a point where you should just maybe push them a little or like engage more, or just let them be comfortable and not talk?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And so with active listening, right, it's like the whole intention is like, is this person ready to talk to you? Are they open and willing to have this conversation? But I think if this is a close friend, or if this is someone you're worried about, it's okay to express concern and say like, I've noticed that I asked you this, and you say that you're not doing great, but you don't really want to talk about it. But like I'm worried about you, and so maybe you don't want to talk about it now, but like I want you to know that I'm here if you want to talk, but also I want you to know that I'm here if you want support in connecting to someone to talk to. Like if you think it would be helpful for them to talk to a professional, because usually if you're really that concerned, they should probably be speaking to a professional, even if it's staff or someone who can get them closer to that step. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a really good question. Any other questions about active listening skills or just general, like, do you have a scenario or another friend who maybe you want to talk through how to talk to them? I'd love talking through examples if you have them. You're all more quiet today. I'm like, is it because it's Saturday morning? Is everyone still
Saturday
waking up?
morning, Dr. Sanchez.
I know. I was like, that's
I
what
talk
it
all
is.
the time, but I don't want to take away from there.
Oh no, I am fine. I just want to make sure that, like, if you have questions that we can talk about them. It's super gloomy here. But I find a lot of comfort in the rain. It's raining where I'm at. I don't know how it is for you. Is it raining over there too?
No, it's actually kind of sunny today. It's going to be a warm day.
Okay. Oh, that's nice. But I like it when it feels like the season we're actually in. Let's see what I've done. So my next question will prompt you all. So it's like, when should you encourage a friend to seek professional support? I don't know. Huh?
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I saw the chat and I was like, I don't know what that means.
I don't either.
So
it's a person that feels relaxed with the rain or feel more comfortable when it's raining.
oh, thank you. That I've learned something new. Yeah. I think it's just because I lived in Oregon for a few years and I have to find comfort in the rain because it was always raining. But yes, thank you. Thank you for teaching me that. Nayeli, were you going to respond to this question?
Oh, yes. I was going to say when they express that they want to harm themselves or want to harm somebody else, I think that's definitely like when their life is in danger or they're putting the life of somebody else in danger.
Yes. Yes, 100%. Like if there's ever any signs of danger, you see them engaging in a lot of risky behavior, like suddenly, this friend that was very, straight edge is suddenly using a lot of substances or trying to party. They're, trying to like hang out with people much older than they are. All of these would be signs that something's going on. Any other reaction or responses to this? When should you encourage a friend to seek professional support?
I was just gonna say what Ms. Martinez says about suicidal thoughts, or also if they start doing like reckless behavior, like partying too much, drinking too much alcohol.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if like a different question is on a different slide,
Mm-hmm.
but I would ask how would I encourage a friend to seek professional help or support?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how should you encourage your friends to seek professional support? That's actually a good question, and I'm always inclined to answer right away, but I'd love to open that up to anyone. Like, have you all ever had a moment where you want to encourage a friend to seek emotional support or seek professional emotional support? And if you have done that, I'd love to hear about how that went.
Well, I myself have. I feel like a lot of people
Okay.
our age or in my age group. I mean, I think it was the first meeting that we had with you, where we learned that
Mm-hmm.
like I think 50% of Gen Z
Mm-hmm.
experience some type of mental illness or depression or
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
most people our age have interacted with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I myself have, since like middle school, there's been situations.
Mm-hmm.
I've always encouraged people because usually us is by text. Like when people I think feel more
Yeah.
comfortable sometimes, they're talking by text. So by
Mm-hmm.
text, I usually encourage like them to talk to somebody, but like I never know what words specifically are best because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I find that they're like, oh, I'm fine. I don't wanna. It's not that much. It's almost as if they don't feel their emotions are valid. So I try to like make them feel valid, like because they say that they're not diagnosed. Like, oh, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
diagnosed with depression or I'm not diagnosed with anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
I just try to like say, it doesn't matter if you're not diagnosed if you're feeling a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should tell your parents, and if you don't feel enough, telling your parents. Then I've also like recently I recommended the sites you gave us of online.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think one of my friends actually did that. So
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah. So let's say if your preferred communication is via text, is using different social media, right? It is sending over the resources to them and saying like, look, because think about when someone's depressed or having low motivation, the idea of even looking up where to find help is like too much work. It's already too much work. So if you're noticing and you're like, hey, here's something that you can do. Like if you want to help you call or I'll help you like that's why there's also the text lines because a lot of people prefer that. But yeah, texting a friend and kind of saying that, but normalizing it. That's why that's why that first talk was so important and saying like everyone experiences some of this and it's important to get help and you don't need to be in crisis to get help. You don't need to be in crisis. You don't need to have some like huge stressor. You just need to want to change something about what's going on for you. So maybe you are just feeling sad, but you want to learn more about like, man, like I really don't know how to manage my sadness. Like all I do is cry, I just shut down, I lock myself up, and then I feel better and then I come back to it. But normally during those sad days, I'm out for a few days and I don't want to do that anymore. I'd like to be able to just be sad for a little bit and come back, right? And I always remind people like therapy, because therapy, that's where the stigma is, where you think you only go, it's only if you're crazy, if only if you have something significantly wrong with you. But therapy is for everything. Therapy, I've seen people in therapy for breakups. I've seen people in therapy for, they just moved to a new town or, new city for school. I've also seen people who like just want to learn more about, how they're perceived in relationships or they want to grow. And okay, let's see, I have a comment from Bianca. Pretty difficult question. I think when they are committing a certain action, like what Ms. Martinez said, it's a good time to lend someone a hand and get them the professional help they've always needed. Yes. And so this question is a little bit tricky on purpose because essentially, when I want to normalize seeking mental health services, I want to normalize asking for help and talking to a professional. And so yes, when someone is in crisis and someone's at risk, when someone's having these thoughts, absolutely. But just when you notice any significant shift, let's say, their home status has changed, like their parents are separating or they have a divorce or like they've experienced a significant loss. All of those moments are also perfectly acceptable to encourage your friend to seek professional support. Essentially, I think it's a little bit of a trick question because anytime you should probably just be encouraging them like, hey, if you're open to this idea, this would be wonderful. I'll tell you something though about working with youth and adolescents. If your friend is not ready and they don't want to do it, it's not going to be helpful. They have to be open to the idea that this is something that's going to help them. I've worked with teens before whose parents lied to them and told them they were going somewhere else and they show up at a therapy appointment. Yeah, thank you, Naomi. Your reaction is exactly my reaction. That is the absolute worst thing to do. Please never lie to someone about taking them to a professional help. Those types of interventions, they're not helpful. They do not work, and all it does is ruin the relationship with the clinician and the youth before they could even get started. And so definitely don't do that. But express here's this. I don't have any. Oh, what was the
I
question?
feel like another way to answer the question maybe could be when they're showing like some type of signs, because I feel like sometimes like you could tell by we were speaking about previously how you could tell. I also feel like in terms of when they start asking, like, I don't know right now on the top of my head, but it's like there's some specific questions that just ring a bell where it's like, oh, they're asking for help, like when they're seeking out for help already. I feel like that would be a good time to help
Yeah.
professional help.
Yeah. And remember, you all are coming to these different workshops. You're learning about this. And if you have an interest, you answered in your knowledge of these, like the difference between sadness and depression. That tells me that you all are familiar and like do your own research or are following different accounts that are helping you understand this. And so with that, you have to remember that a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't have that exposure, and depending on their like cultural belief systems, this is incredibly taboo and it's incredibly difficult. So you have to hear things multiple times before you're ready for them. So if you encourage them, and if another friend encourages them, when enough people are telling them like, hey, I think could be helpful for you to talk to someone, that's when it will like finally push through, right? So excellent answers. Y'all are doing so well. Any other kind of responses or other questions about this prompt? All right. So we're not going to do this one right now, unless you want to. You can do them and we can talk about them. But let's say you're not sure that someone in your life is actually experiencing like the clinical level of depression, or you just want to know. There's a lot of different tools online to be able to assess the depression risk, and so they're called screenings. And you'll find them online everywhere. So this is a website where like, and I'll show you at our next meeting the anxiety one, what that one looks like. But this is depression screening. When people fill this one out, they are able to see, to what extent are some of the symptoms that they're feeling, like how is that comparing to what other people are experiencing. And you know what, since we have time, because we still even have time for the meditation that I want to do, let me share this with you. I can just do a fake one. So can you all see my screen? Do you see the depression test on there? Thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right. So I'm going to think of someone I've worked with in the past as I answer these questions. So I'm going to think about, I'm trying to think of someone who's like, who isn't incredibly depressed and is still able to function. But so let me tell you about the student who I'm thinking about. So this student is, let's say, 20-year-old, cisgender, Filipino female. And she came into therapy because she has been experiencing some depression symptoms. And so very high functioning student, straight A student, she does really well. But, she hides a big part of herself to everyone. So she'll go and do all of the work, and in the evenings, be essentially have breakdowns most nights. So I'm going to answer this like her. And let's give her a name. Let's call her Anna. I'm sorry if there's an Anna in here. I'm just trying to think of an easy name that is nothing to do with the student's name. So Anna. So this is Anna's answer. So little interest or pleasure in doing things for Anna, that is nearly every day. Like she goes through the motions because she's still able to have that motivation because she wants to be a really good student, but she doesn't really enjoy any of it. Feeling down, depressed, or hopeless, that is also nearly every day for Anna. That's why she has to come in. Trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, or sleeping too much. So Anna actually doesn't have as many sleep issues. And so she has a little bit of sleep issues. So we'll say several days because she's able to regulate her sleep. Feeling tired or having little energy. So she does feel really tired all the time, but she is able to push through for things. And so we will also say several days for this one. So poor appetite or overeating. Anna has a very restricted and limited appetite. In a large part of our work, it's us trying to think about how to make sure she's getting the basic nutrients. So for her, that's nearly every day as well. The next one is feeling bad about yourself or that you are a failure or have let yourself or your family down. Anna constantly feels guilty and feels like a burden to her loved ones, right? Because she thinks that she should be able to do more for them. And so that one is also nearly every day. Trouble concentrating on things such as reading the newspaper or watching television. So Anna, surprisingly, is still able to concentrate on things because her academics are such a priority for her. It's one of the few things that she's holding on to within this depression. And so trouble concentrating, even when it's hard, she'll still push through. So we'll put several days. Moving or speaking so slowly that other people could have noticed, or the opposite, feeling so fidgety or restless that you have been moving around more than usual. This one for depression, I often see it more as moving slowly, talking slow, moving slow. But this is actually not a symptom that Anna's experienced at all. Thoughts that you would be better off dead or of hurting yourself. Anna's not experiencing these at all. And then this last question is, if you checked off any problems, how difficult have these problems made it for you to work at home, at work, home, or with other people? And for her, it'd be extremely difficult because there's days where she goes to her work and then locks herself up in her room. today. I'll give it a minute because it's been slow. Oh, and so after you fill it out, you'll get this here. This is them they're collecting data. You don't have to fill this out. Like, so if you go through this for yourself, you don't have to fill this out. This is because they're trying to get more information. So I'm not going to fill this one out just to show you. And then we should get Anna's results. So I'm working with Anna. So I know that Anna is experiencing clinically significant depression. Oh no, it like experienced an error. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. So these are the results. And so once you go through all of this, and I really recommend you just at least familiarize yourself with it, because then when you recommend it to others, they can see. This is one way of like, I think you might need professional help. Why don't we just do this screening to see if this is something you might need? And so based on Anna's results, she scored a 15, which means she's experiencing a moderately severe depression. So I shared with you, it's pretty intense. And so that's why she's been coming to therapy to see me. So as we work on developing different coping skills and managing the stress. And so again, this is not meant to be a diagnosis, right? This is something to give you more insight into, is what I'm feeling possibly depression, or am I just feeling sad? Anna is someone who I'm seeing, so I know that she's experiencing clinically severe depression or clinically diagnosable depression, and so I knew her answer would be this way. But this is what the results would look like. Just wanted to walk you through that. Let me go back to this. Are any questions about the depression screening or what that might look like? Just generally, any questions about this, or questions about, or do you have any reactions to watching the screening?
Do you mind sharing the, I don't know, I kind of stepped out for a second. Do you mind sharing the link in the chat?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat.
I could take that test later on. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh.
No, just
yeah,
no. Have it. We can share.
Yeah. Yeah, give me a second. Let me, as I did that, it like just bumped me out of everything. But I will put the link in the chat. And spoiler, we will be talking about the anxiety one next week because I think it's important for you all to have access to these tools, because these are free to sort of get more insight into what's going on for you. So I just put it in the chat so you have access to it. Any other questions about this? Because I know we're nearing the end of our time, and so I wanted to end with that meditation to just be able to practice some of the different coping skills, but I want to also make sure we have time for questions. So I want to just open up for questions before I go into the meditation. Okay, so for this meditation that we're going to do, it's called the loving kindness meditation. And it's essentially sending positive energy into all of the spaces that you are in. And so I'm gonna bring up an image so that you can see that while I should be. Okay, so you all can still see, if I leave it here, can you see it? Because I'm gonna go off to be able to read the script. I think, do you all still see the loving kindness meditation on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start. So first, I want you to be in a space where you can be really comfortable to do this. So if you feel comfortable laying down, if you're like in your bed or somewhere where you can just relax, you can do that. If you are feeling comfortable with just being able to sit, I will be asking you to close your eyes. If you're in a space where you feel safe to do that, please do that. But if not, it's just like fix your vision. So try to stare at like an object on the ground. You essentially want to be able to just listen and be focused on that, right? And so this is called the loving kindness meditation. I'm gonna go ahead and start. Okay, it'll take about 10 minutes. So close your eyes. Sit comfortably with your feet flat on the floor and your spine straight. Relax your whole body. Keep your eyes closed throughout the whole visualization and bring your awareness inward without straining or concentrating. Just relax and gently follow the instructions. Take a deep breath in. And breathe out. Keeping your eyes closed, think of a person close to you who loves you very much. It could be someone from the past or the present, someone still in your life, or someone who has passed. It could be a spiritual teacher or guide. Now, imagine that person standing on your right side, sending you their love. That person is sending you wishes for your safety, for your well-being, and happiness. Feel the warm wishes and love coming from that person towards you. Now bring to mind the same person or another person who cherishes you deeply. Imagine that person standing on your left side, sending you wishes for your wellness, for your health and happiness. Feel the kindness and warmth coming to you from that person. Now imagine that you are surrounded on all sides by all the people who love you and have loved you. Picture all of your friends and loved ones surrounding you. They are sending you wishes for your happiness, your well-being, and health. Bask in the warm wishes and love coming from all sides. You are filled and overflowing with warmth and love. Okay. Now bring your awareness back to the person standing on your right side. Begin to send the love that you feel back to that person. You and this person are similar. Just like you, this person wishes to be happy. Send all your love and warm wishes to that person. Repeat the following phrases silently. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be free from pain. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be free from pain. May you live with ease. May you be happy. May you be free from pain. Now focus your awareness on the person standing on your left side. Begin to direct the love within you to that person. Send all of your love and warmth to that person. That person and you are alike. Just like you, that person wishes to have a good life. Now repeat the following phrases silently. Just as I wish to, may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you live with ease and happiness. Just as I wish to, may you be safe, May you be healthy. May you live with ease and happiness. Just as I wish to. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and happiness. Now, picture another person who you love, perhaps a relative or a friend. This person, like you, wishes to have a happy life. Let's send warm wishes to that person. Repeat the following phrases silently. May your life be filled with happiness, health, and well-being. May your life be filled with happiness, health, and well-being. May your life be filled with happiness, health, and well-being. Now think of an acquaintance, someone you don't know very well and toward whom you do not have any particular feeling, but you and this person are alike in your wish to have a good life. Send all your wishes for well-being to that person, repeating the following phrases silently. Just as I wish to, may you also live with ease and happiness. Just as I wish to, may you also live with ease and happiness. Just as I wish to, may you also live with ease and happiness. Now bring your mind to another acquaintance towards whom you feel neutral. It could be a neighbor, a classmate, or someone else that you see around but do not know very well. Like you, this person wishes to experience joy and well-being in his or her life. Send all of your good wishes to that person, repeating the following phrases silently. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be free from all pain. Now expand your awareness and picture the whole globe in front of you as a little ball. Send warm wishes to all living beings on the globe who, like you, want to be happy. Just as I wish to, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish to, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Just as I wish to, may you live with ease, happiness, and good health. Now, take a deep breath in and breathe out. And another deep breath in. And let it go. Notice the state of your mind and how you feel after this meditation. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. So I want to check in with you all about how that went, because I am sending this to all of you. May you be happy. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you live with ease and happiness. I'd like to hear from you about how you felt during this meditation practice. Meditation and a visualization like this can be incredibly challenging. And so I'd like to hear from each of you, or from you all, what this was like, or if you were able to be present. It's also okay if you found yourself not able to focus.
I really liked it. I think from my personal experience, it's something that I've been trying to, I wrote it up on a sticky note in my mirror, because I feel like I'm constantly like, go, 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 and I never stop and reflect about my personal self sometimes, if I'm being completely transparent. So I think for me, it made me feel really grounded to like myself, but also like other people, and like just thinking about other people in my life that are very like supportive and positive. So I really liked it. I wish you should do a podcast because I would definitely like
Oh,
listen.
you're sweet. Thank you.
That it was very, I think it was very grounding for me. I feel like I needed that. And I felt myself being really emotional at one point. So it was really good.
But, as we talk about these difficult topics, it's so important to take care of ourselves. And so I hope it's in the link on the slide. So if you weren't able to focus today, as I'm realizing, I couldn't see the chat when I was on there, and I'm just looking at the chat. If any of you saw the chat during the meditation, I forgive you for not being able to focus during it. Because I'm just seeing Aurelia that Joe Biden is officially declared as the new president. So I did not haven't seen that, and so
I know, me too. I woke up, opened my eyes to like so many messages from people.
yeah, and so I won't take up the space to use that, but to process that with you all, because I want to end with our positive feelings, just where we're at. This is with the elections and stuff, it can cause a lot more stress. And so when we were just in a space of calm, I want to be able to hold on to that. But Bianca, thank you. I'm glad that you feel relaxed and more awake. And it just is just a reminder to just be kind, right? Be kind and send that to everyone, regardless. And as we're thinking about this, we all have different belief systems. We all have different ways of viewing and thinking. But we are allowed to wish others well as we exist in, whatever that you need for today. So are there any questions, or is there anything else that you all need from this space today?
I was going to agree with Ms. Martinez. You should really start a podcast, because I'm setting up at work, so I didn't get a chance to do the activity. But like, it was really relaxing to hear it. Definitely start a podcast.
You are so sweet. This is my morning. Did you hear that? I was like, I almost cussed in this space. I'm sorry. In this, you're so, didn't even watch A Good Place. You're so freaking sweet. That's so nice. That is how I can do that appropriately in this setting.
I love that show.
It's so funny. It's so lighthearted. But so I hope that, I want to send you all with good energy into this weekend. Talking about depression is heavy. Talking about how to talk to your friends is heavy. And these are just very, very, this is a snapshot of skills that you can use. Every one of these workshops that I do, we could have a whole class on this and talk about. So if you have lingering questions, you should have lingering questions. There should feel like, I don't fully understand some of this, because we're covering a class worth topic in 1 hour. And so I try to just pick bits and pieces that are more digestible. But if you have questions and would like to know any more specifics, you're always welcome to email me. My info is in the slides, but I know you get sent over. But I will restate my email in the chat in case anything comes up for you all. But it was lovely to be in this space with you today.
Thank you for having us, or for joining us. we love our sessions with you. I feel like this year we definitely needed them, and definitely look forward to. We have one more session, correct?
Thursday. on
Awesome.
Thursday, and it'll be on anxiety, which, you know, I love talking about anxiety because I love talking about what we all experience anxiety and just understanding why it feels so uncomfortable in certain instances, right? Like, I felt anxious before today. Like, I've done talks like this all the time, but I always feel a little bit anxious before I do any presentation. And that's just part of the process. And I know, and it's just preparing me because I'm excited. And this is something I really enjoy doing. I woke up at 6:30 in the morning to be ready for this today. So I do love being here with you all. It's one of my passions, but
Thank you. We appreciate it.
yeah, perfect. I know that you Saturday programming, so I imagine you have something right after this, and so I can step out if that's easier.
Awesome.
Oh, I have to give up I have to make someone else host again though, right?
Yes.
I don't
believe
want
so. I think we're both, yeah, either one of us, either Anakleto or can be like the main host.
Yeah, I'll give it that. Okay, perfect.
Well, thank you so
Well,
much.
yeah, I'll see you on Thursday. Take care
Yes.
of yourselves.
You too. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.